Was that a river too far?
Oh no!
Or a bridge too
I
far?
mean, it could have been. It could have been a river. Was that
full
a river too far?
It's not
It
just a
could
bridge
have
too
been.
far. That's a
It could
full
have been
river too
a
far for a joke.
full river. I'm gonna tell Danny that one though, if I remember when
Okay.
she comes home.
Tell Danny.
Okay, babe.
I'll text it to you. All right.
I like
Welcome
it.
back, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Elder Elves, where
A
we
river too far.
don't let you in on the jokes because you don't.
Where we
wanna
spend
be.
30. Yeah, and where we're only doing 30 minutes of just us talking about, whatever we got going on in our minds.
Yeah, whatever. Just daily
Whatever.
chit chat. We're like a public access show. We pay $6 a week to be on public access, and we just talk about whatever we want. I
We're
wonder
like
if
the public
podcasting-
access elves.
Yeah, I wonder if genuine question, like, did podcasting kill public access television and streaming services? Like,
to be honest, I think corporations did that.
Yeah, it's just an
Because
interesting
PBS, because look at PBS, like Sesame Street. Remember when they're like, Sesame Street's going to HBO, and we're like,
thought. Oh yeah,
but Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, like, y'all remember that Mr. Rogers went to Congress to fight for PBS, right?
yeah. Go ahead and put all that learning behind a paywall. Do it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Anyway, we're talking about
Anyway.
Dungeons and Dragons. We've been doing a whole little series about how to for newcomers or people who've been doing it for a while. Whatever floats your boat. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, that's cool. Last time we talked about being a DM a little bit, and this time we thought we would talk about world building a little bit. These are all pretty broad touches that we've been talking about, so you can definitely dig in and research a little bit more, but these are just kind of our ideas about playing the game and being a part of the game and setting it up and being inside of all your players.
Yes. You had me at be inside, so
Yep,
I was ready to hear where that was going to go.
I'm gonna
wherever
say
the river takes us, really.
Wherever the river takes us. I took a wrong turn down the river, and I have not been able to get back ever since I found that joke.
Well, if you see Boromir,
no. Don't make me man sad. That's gonna make me man sad.
Goodbye, Boromir.
I tried to take the ring from Frodo. He's beyond us. Anyway, so world building.
Yeah.
I think the thing that we've always touched on when we've been talking about this is that there are books for Dungeons and Dragons that you can look at and use at your own discretion. They give you, I've never used them, but from what I understand, it's a pretty good outline of the story that if you want to play, if you have trouble coming up with your own world or coming up with your own idea or story or anything like that. So there's always those to go to, but if you do want to be more creative, I guess, where do you start when you start building a world? Because we're both writers at some point or another.
At some point.
So at some point or another, past, present, or future.
Maybe.
Type.
Tippity tap. Honestly, I homebrewed my world, and I've been homebrewing it and that's what we call creating your own space, your own, whatever it may be, like fantasy or horror, sci-fi, any of that stuff, romance even. And so I've been playing in this world in my mind for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think I started initially was a location. So the very first location I ever had was a tavern called the Misty Inn. And from there spawned the town it was in, the locals, to the continent, to the gods, the lore, all that other stuff, you have, like Colin was just saying, the books of Dungeons and Dragons, and there are some really awesome concepts in it, stories. They also have like a play set of taking you from level 1 for some of them to 15, so you can do a mass set of stuff, so you don't have to be a writer or a storyteller to like try and come up with anything. But for me, I always, when I'm creating, I start with a location, like a starting point location. Even if it's just the origin of a person. So like if I, for instance, I was in a game where I was going to be playing a elf. Surprise, surprise. What?
Was it?
No, I actually liked how you're running your monk.
I love that monk.
Yeah, so I was thinking I was going to do like a shadow monk and possibly like a little peppering a rogue with her. And so it started with like this idea of Shadowfell, because she was going to be a person from this place, Shadowfell, and coming into a world that is vibrant and colorful and completely different. And then I was like, well, you know what? I don't want her really from Shadowfell. I kind of want her in a standalone place, because the DM didn't have Shadowfell really in his makeup. He didn't even have that kind of fleshed out or any of that stuff. So I said, okay, I'll build a kingdom, because she was going to be like a princess turned like de facto queen, you know. So I just started with her origin place, and that origin place kind of has grown. And although I'm not playing in that campaign anymore, and I pulled her from it, like I looked at Into the Odd, which is a TTRPG that's more light on its is lighter than Dungeons and Dragons, but they have a city called Bastion, and it was more industrial. And I kind of was like, you know what, I want to play Into the Odd, and I, as a storyteller, like to take elements and bring them in, and like Bastion's a great place to start, but what is the whole world that Bastion is going to cradle into, so that way I can create more stories from it and not just, use their stuff that what can I bring to it. So I essentially took the elements of this character and built this whole kingdom for this particular game, and that I haven't run yet.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, that happens a lot. Like I guess if you're a creative person, and if you kind of do this in general, you end up having a lot of ideas and worlds that you may never even touch on or use or anything like that. Like, as a kid, I daydreamed like all the time. Like, I was just really bad. I was a very lonely kid. I was homeschooled for a long time, and then I didn't have a ton of friends. So I was in my own head for Miranda just held up a small stuffed toy. I don't have any. I have a ton of toys behind me, but I don't have any stuffed toys. But I daydreamed a whole bunch, and I daydreamed about like spaceships and flying around to different worlds, and I leaned more towards sci-fi, but you could do just the same thing for fantasy. Or whatever, like post-apocalyptic, dystopian, whatever. The thing about world building for me is it usually all starts with like a scene, like a visual kind of trailer is sort of a bad word, because for me, whether I'm writing a book or coming up with like a world for D&D, I sort of have this like one freeze frame picture that just kind of is in my head, and that's sort of the definition of the world, and I just build out from there. And it's funny because I actually just had to kind of go through this exercise with my kid who was doing like a narrative essay, and they had to do a fictional narrative, and they had the breakdown in a very like step 1, step 2, step 3, what's the I forget how they had it, but it was like blank blank blank, the hook, the climax, things like that. And I was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We got a blank piece of paper, and I was like, just throw some ideas out that you want to do. And I started writing them down, drawing big circles around them. I was like, okay, now let's start connecting like those ideas, and you make this like little web. And so that's a like very easy way, in my opinion, to start making this world. So the last D&D world that I came up with, which was for like a couple of friends and then the kids, I set them all up. They were all strangers, and they met each other. They all woke up in prison together, and they were on a ship. So they were on a ship, and they could hear it creaking and rocking back and forth and everything like that. So I let them go on for a long time, and they got out of the cages. They took out the guards that came down to arrest them. Then they got up on the deck of the ship, and that's when they realized it was a flying ship. So it was like a sailboat. It's like a frigate in space, or not in space, but in like the sky. And so then all
it was
the
in
sound,
space.
yeah, I mean, low atmosphere. So it was in the sky. It was a sky ship, and that was sort of the picture I had in my head of like this, almost like Mario Brothers, like Super Mario Brothers 3, with when all of them were the ship, and that's what you were trying to get to at the end, all the Koopas. That was kind of what I had in my head. And then I was like, okay, from there, I've established that this is a culture that can live either on the ground or up in the sky. And maybe the sky is just for people who had money and power enough to do it. So, okay, there's an island that is in the sky, but that's just all dukes and rich people, and then their servants who they capture and bring up there and everything like that. So they spent the majority of that first arc just on that floating island trying to figure stuff out and how it worked, and eventually they ended up crashing it. So you can start with just like an element. Like, just all you need is one like kernel of an idea, and if you just branch out and go hog wild, because you don't need to care about budget or reality or anything like that. If you want to get crazy, like, you don't need to have it on this planet. You can have different gravity properties. You could have it all underwater. There's even, I mean, there's ancestries and species that allow you to do that within D&D. I've never run a fully underwater campaign, but I think that's cool. There's a lot of different, you could just do a whole bunch of different stuff like that.
I feel like I would want to do a fully underwater campaign. I do have like, I thought about that in terms of like, would there be, because we talk about like underwater kingdoms or whatever. So I built one into my game, but none of my, because I run a game every month, no one has dealt with that yet. The most that they dealt with was learning that they're like pirate captain. Well, first off was a pirate, but also dated like the ambassador to this thing, and they had a very bad breakup. So so they're not supposed to be sailing through this like section of water. So
that's great.
They specifically told them no one is to make noise, like everyone is to be quiet and like while they're passing through. And what did they all do? Start singing, got drunk, like Do you hear
well,
this?
It's also a good, I hear your dogs. Your dogs are the crew making a lot of noise.
I know, as soon as I was like, you gotta be quiet. Do you hear?
Rah, 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 rah. They're going
crazy. Do you
crazy.
hear the whoa noise? That's the beagle. He beagles
Of
once
course
in a
it's
while. Yeah, I'd get another one.
fucking bagels. Of course you'd get another one. You're a glutton for punishment. I
I
don't
know.
know why.
You know what? There's just we should have like one of these. We should talk about magic, like familiars.
Oh my god. Oh,
We
that'd
should
be
just talk
great.
about familiars and like our favorites
Familiars.
because that's
Well, you know
another
what you were
topic.
saying about dating the underwater person and things like that. I was gonna say, you know, even if you've got a campaign you're already going, maybe it's getting stale or maybe your players are getting bored or whatever. It's a great way to kind of tie into almost like a second season, if you want to call it that, and be like, okay, you've had this whole like classic fantasy campaign that's going on. Everybody's feeling a little bored, but maybe they want to keep their characters and everything like that. Well, who's to say that you can't go on some adventure underwater to like an Atlantis type culture that you never even knew existed or pre-established, or maybe you get teleported to a different planet or a different realm, anything like that. You can do whatever you want. You can also, there's no shame in taking like your favorite book or movie or television show and retrofitting it into campaign.
Yeah,
Like,
or like elements of it, or you know, it's okay to have homages to that sort of fantasy, or say, you know what, I really love Lord of the Rings, and I love the epicness of it, and I love these elements of it, so I'm gonna stuff it in there. You know, that's okay. Totally do it.
Well, did you ever watch Stargate? Either the show or the movie?
Yeah.
Fantastic show. Like the movie's not great. The movie's very early 90s.
Yes, and I was kind of confused.
Yes, you're kind of confused. If you watch the show better, the first couple of seasons were on Showtime, not as great.
And Claudia Black wasn't there yet.
Yeah, no, Claudia Black wasn't there. She was in the later seasons. But
or like Farscape.
The whole point is, Farscape. Like that, the whole premise of that show is you walk through this magical ring and warp to a different planet. You could have as many weird adventures, monsters of the week, D&D campaigns as you wanted to have if you establish this ring. Like, whatever, who cares? Like, as long as you set up the rules to your quote-unquote world, you're good. You can do whatever you want.
Could be a mirror.
That's a great idea. Yeah. But yeah,
now I'm really thinking about that. Thanks a lot, Colin. My ADHD brain was like, oh shit, we could probably do that. Put that in there.
Totally do that. It's so easy. But that's, or, think about Star Trek. You're going to a different planet all the time. There's also, like, what I never see people really do is, like, run a campaign in, like, present day. But with the fantasy elements that are kind of inherent to D&D or, whatever RPG you're playing with. But, what would that world look like? What would
a little like a little Dimension 20, like the Fantasy High would be,
exactly.
They have that van that's like a magic van.
Yeah. That's what I always like. So if I write like a really weird fantasy story, I always think about like, okay, how did we get here? Like, I wrote this one where everybody had wings. So it was just humans, but they all had wings, kind of like Angel from X-Men or Hawkman or whatever. And it's like, okay, so in that world, what technology doesn't exist? Because they wouldn't really need cars, right? Because
or airplanes.
Or airplanes. So, what is that like? What does streets look like? Because they don't
messy.
Need streets. Messy. Like, how tall are the buildings? Like, as soon as you start locking in on what you want to build your world around, everything else is just like trickle down storytelling. Basically.
I think did you ever play, is it King's Quest 5? Aaron back again? It's like Prince Alexander, or 4, 5? 6,
I
7
think I stopped
in
after
that range.
4. I think I
Yeah,
stopped
this
at 3
one
or 4.
it was like so Prince Alexander goes chasing after this woman that he's in love with. She's a princess, and she has to go back to her kingdom because her parents are, spoiler, not doing well.
Isn't that the premise for like every King's Quest?
Yeah, they're dead. So he goes to find her, and his boat crashes on the shore, and it turns out it's like these 7 wondrous islands, or six or 7 wondrous islands, and each island is different, but like the technology is kind of there, but there's like it's like storybook-esque. So you could do those kind of things if you don't want to be people, or you don't want to do D&D at all, but you want to have D&D like the layout. My Little Pony. I'm laughing about it, but like I bought the My Little Pony book. There's a My Little Pony book, and it's good, guys. There's like a whole. It's super
I love that.
like simple. It's way more simple. I don't want to be a pony, Miranda. Well, don't be a pony, but you can use that layout too. Really, when it comes to world building, you can do whatever you want. Just touch base with your players to see what they actually want to play in. I think that's really what it comes down to. If you go to your players like, hey, this is what I kind of want to do, and how do you feel about it? And they're like, oh, I don't think that's really my jam. It's all about how you guys, like, everybody's fun, including your own. So find a happy medium. You don't have to world build just by yourself. Get input from your players. They might be able to help you, or guide you, or maybe even while you guys are playing, just that improv alone helps spur new things, new cities, or new towns, or it'll definitely be new people. You will get NPCs with the funkiest names out of it.
And the other thing I was going to say too is, I haven't actually done this, but I've thought about it. If you either don't want to put that much thought into like your physical world, like mentally designing it, you guys just want to jump in and play, you could do it like, if you're a gamer and if you like that, open up Minecraft or like play Minecraft with your friends. You can have an instant world if you want, and you guys can just play in that. You can still role play, and you can still roll dice and everything like that, but you just have that kind of like sandbox of a world to play in. Or if you want to, go in there and physically create the world you want to create. Like if you do have an idea, go in, build it up, and then all you guys go in there and play. And if you're in creative, like, you don't really have to worry about dying or anything like that. So all the monsters you fight and everything, you could either actually fight them, or you could just, you could roll the dice on it and everything like that. Just an idea. I haven't done it, but it sounds pretty cool. And I know there's a ton of other like programs and apps that help you with
Portal
that
Knights.
too. Yeah, Portal Knights. Oh yeah. Portal Knights is a great one too. That's
Portal Knights is like the most slept on game. Like,
Agreed.
Has a story. You can play as an elf, which is why I like it so much, guys.
Always.
But no, you can be basically your archer, your fighter, your mage. You can be a druid in it. Pretty neat. It's
actually, that's probably a better example than Fortnite or Minecraft.
Fortnite, we're gonna go murder.
Fortnite doesn't work for this particular thing. Well, actually, there is some creative stuff in Fortnite that you can do outside of like the battle royale. So I guess you could technically, if you really wanted to.
You could.
It'd be a different kind of game, but yeah, Portal Knights is a great idea.
When it comes to sandbox or linear storytelling, a lot of people get hung up that you are either one or the other. Sometimes I've seen, or they feel like there's a whole railroading concept. Like, I don't want to railroad my players. But what I found is I try to be, for myself as a DM, in the middle as much as I can, because I found that if I give my players too much of a sandbox, they freeze. I created
what's that called? Decision paralysis?
Yeah,
if there's
way too much. I created a character called Betty, who is this like cloud monstrosity that I found on it was on like a D&D Beyond, someone or Pinterest, someone like created these homebrewed monsters, and it looked like Hootie, but a cloud, like Hootie from
Owl House.
The Owl House, and it looks like a cloud version of that. And Betty was like, "Oh, hey guys, what you doing?" And it was a ginormous creature, ginormous. So when it was in the sky, if it was sunny out, they couldn't see it. It becomes invisible. So they didn't actually see it, and then it became it was supposed to be like the helpful, like, here you go, I see everything, I'll help you. But it like has things like it could put you to sleep, and it's really funny. And so one group that I introduced it to all ran away from it, was like no. And the second group I introduced it to, they ended up convincing it to let it be rode like Falcor from Neverending Story. And I was like, "Oh, guys, where do you want to go?" So I gave them like the whole, like I laid the map out, and I said, "Guys, you literally just convinced this basically god-esque sort of creature, because it's a gargantuan like creature, sentient creature, to take you anywhere you want in the universe, like in this universe, right? Anywhere, any continent, any island, because I have other islands. I'm like, anywhere you want to go." I said, "Where do you want to go?" And all of them were like,
Yeah.
And then that's when they had to decide, what are we actually doing? And so one player helpfully was like, we're going to go save this princess. And I was like, perfect. Now we're going to do that. So they asked to be dropped in, I was like, "Oh, you don't want to go there. That place is scary," right? It's like this town called Hyacinth. I was like, "You don't want," it used to be the capital city, now it's like in ruins. And they're like, "I want to go there." And I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to go there. You're going to die." They're like, "No, we want to go there." And so midway, we're like laughing and whatever, and my ADHD like really kicked in, and I forgot that that's where they wanted to go. So I dropped them at a completely different section on the map. And they're like, "We weren't supposed to go here. We're supposed to go back to that city." And as a character, I was like, "Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, well." And then it like left.
That's hilarious.
It's stupid. I'm like, oh my god.
I guess the long and the short of world building is anything goes,
Have fun.
or have fun. But if that's too much and that's too many decisions to make, pick your favorite thing that you love.
Yeah, streamline it.
Yeah, streamline.
Streamline
or
it.
Or just use some of the books. It's fine.
Yeah, it's
anyway,
okay.
Don't get bogged down in the amount that there is. So you're good. Just do whatever you want to do and let all the players have fun. There's 1,000 different ways to do it. Anyway, we do this little thing every Tuesday. So you can join us next Tuesday. You can hear all about it. I think maybe next time we'll talk about alignments and whether or not you should use them and how to play a character. But you can find me. I'm a voice actor and a writer, ColinCarlton.com or Colin Carlton VO, all over the social medias. And you are an artist and a writer, and you can find you where?
As Obscure Abrasion on everything. Ha
ha! All right, everybody.
All right.
Have a great week. Enjoy your time. Have fun world building. Toodaloo.